Numbers 33. Moses? Still alive. The question is how long we're going to stall the inevitable. And we all know by now that the Bible writers don't have a good secondary storyline. So this time, before we learn about how to conquer Canaan, we're going to read off the itinerary for the Israelites' journey. I'm not kidding you. Imagine using Google Maps to figure out how to go on a very long journey without highways and then reading every turn out loud. And then insisting everything you say is gold, because why else would it be included in the Bible? That's this chapter. Here are the stages in the journey of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt by divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages in their journey. This is their journey by stages. I want you to keep in mind that the Bible could just say, remember how they started in Egypt? Well, they finally made it to Canaan. But this is the Bible. This is the book that made famous the word begat. We are not skipping the details of this journey. The colon at the end is an understatement, somehow. The Israelites set out from Ramses on the 15th day of the first month, the day after the Passover. They marched out defiantly in full view of all the Egyptians, who were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. For the Lord had brought judgment on their gods. The Israelites left Ramses and camped at Succoth. They left Succoth and camped at Atham, on the edge of the desert. They left Atham, turned back to Pi-hahiroth to the east of Baal-Zephon, and camped near Migdol. They left Pi-hahiroth and passed through the sea into the desert. And when they had traveled for 3 days in the desert of Atham, they camped at Marah. They left Marah and went to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. They left Elim and camped by the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and camped in the desert of Sin. They left the desert of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They left Dophkah and camped at Alush. They left Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. I don't know why we're still calling this the Book of Numbers. Did you hear any numbers? I didn't hear any numbers, not even highway routes. Also, the beginning of the journey was them marching out defiantly after God murdered the Egyptian babies and their mothers were burying them. The good guys saw mommies burying their babies and said, bye, we're going on a vacation. And yes, we all remember Rephidim. There was no water. The people complained. Moses asked God to solve it. God said to get water by talking to a rock. But then Moses used his stick to strike the rock, which still brought forth water somehow. But that meant he blasphemed God by not giving God the credit he wanted, because the stick was evil. And that's why Moses is about to die. So yeah, we remember Rephidim. A summary like that might be helpful to readers. But instead, we're just getting a recap of the cities they visited. It's like your relatives showing you old slideshows of their vacation. No one cares. They left Rephidim and camped in the desert of Sinai. They left the desert of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. They left Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. They left Rithmah and camped at Ramon Perez. They left Ramon Perez and camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Risa. They left Risa and camped at Kealatha. They left Kealatha and camped at Mount Shapher. They left Mount Shapher and camped at Haredah. They left Haredah and camped at Makeloth. They left Makeloth and camped at Tahath. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mithkah. They left Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. They left Hashmonah and camped at Moseroth. They left Moseroth and camped at Bene Jaakan. They left Bene Jaakan and camped at Hor Haggidgad. They left Hor Haggidgad and camped at Jothbathah. They left Jothbathah and camped at Ebronah. They left Ebronah and camped at Ezion Geber. They left Ezion Geber and camped at Kadesh in the desert of Zin. Wow. I mean, they kind of had me going with Mithka and Moseroth, and I had my doubts, but they really brought it back full circle with Ebronah. Standing ovation. No notes. Here's what's really interesting. There are important places left off the list. Like, some important stuff went down at Mount Sinai, but that place wasn't mentioned. And a lot of the places that were mentioned were never mentioned before. So what's happening in those places? These people had nothing to do for decades, and yet they clearly couldn't keep basic records of anything. They left Kadesh and camped on Mount Hor, on the border of Edom. At the Lord's command, Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor, where he died on the first day of the 5th month of the 40th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Right, Aaron died. We knew this. It happened in Numbers 20. Thanks for telling us he was 123 though, because until just now I really believed the entire story. Finally, it is time to return to the narrative. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev of Canaan, heard that the Israelites were coming. Okay, interesting. What's he gonna do? Put up a strong defense? Get slaughtered? Let's find out. They left Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. They left Zalmanah and camped at Punan. They left Punan and camped at Oboth. They left Oboth and camped at Igiabarim on the border of Moab. They left Igiabarim and camped at Dibon Gad. They left Dibon Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. They left Ablon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim, near Nebo. They left the mountains of Abarim and camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. There, on the plains of Moab, they camped along the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth to Abel Shittim. Son of a... The Bible is like an episode of The Californians from Saturday Night Live. They give you 4 seconds of story and 4 minutes of street routes. Someone was probably just venting and explaining how they've been traveling forever, and some scribe was just jotting it down to be polite and pretend like he's listening. Next thing you know, it's in the Bible forever. On the plains of Moab, by the Jordan, across from Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you. Destroy all their carved images and their cast idols, and demolish all their high places. Take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given you the land to possess. Distribute the land by lot, according to your clans. To a larger group, give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group, a smaller one. Whatever falls to them by lot will be theirs. Distribute it according to your ancestral tribes." So, genocide. God just sanctioned another genocide. At best, God's saying to evict all these people from their homes. He doesn't care where they go. It's the Israelites' land now. And maybe you're thinking, this seems unusually cruel to drive these people out and destroy all their property. But maybe that's why the Bible just reminded us of how long the journey was and all the places they went to on their way here. It's a way to rationalize all the crimes they're about to commit. Hey Israelites, you can loot and pillage these people all you want because look at everything you went through. You deserve a reward. Now go smash their false idols. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will give you trouble in the land where you live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. That is a weird way to talk about the people you're about to murder or push out. Get rid of all of them, or else they'll drive you crazy and come after you. And if that's not enough, I'll punish you too. Where's the compassion? Why not give the Canaanites a new place to live? Where is the Bible that tells this story from the perspective of the Canaanites where God is the bad guy? I want to read that book. And that's it. After getting more directions than anyone ever wanted, we are right back to where we started, with the Israelites coming to their new home. Finally. It just took 40 years and the death of a ton of people, including maybe Moses, and multiple books of the Bible. I can only assume everything gets better from here on out. It won't get better.